Chet Holmgren, Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner. I think I've taken care of the algorithm there. We're going to dive into the latest news around the NBA that Magic fans have been talking about. Talk about Jalen Suggs shooting, and Franz Wagner leads Germany to a victory. It's time for Friday edition of Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is August 26th, 2022. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the expert and site editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we're going to talk about the thing all Magic fans are talking about, the injury to Chet Holmgren. Not a Magic player, but we'll still talk a little bit about him and kind of what it means or what it says or what it doesn't say, or I don't know. We'll burn 5 minutes on it. Then we're going to chat a little bit about Jalen Suggs. We're going to start a series here on Locked On Magic as well as on Orlando Magic Daily, focusing on one skill that the Magic need several players to really focus on and improve on if they're going to take their next steps. We will focus on Jalen Suggs' shooting on today's episode. We'll close out, of course, talking about Franz Wagner as he leads Germany to a victory over Sweden in World Cup qualifying. The bigger game, of course, coming on Sunday morning as Germany takes on Slovenia. But before you do that, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a lot of great podcasts covering all the NBA teams, plus with NFL starting up, NFL teams as well, and colleges too, like Locked On Gators or Locked On Seminoles. No matter who your team is, you could find a Locked On podcast where you just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for. Check them out wherever you download podcasts, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. As a quick reminder, today's podcast brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. The big news around the NBA over the last 24, 36 hours has been the concern over Chet Holmgren and his injury suffered at the crossover on Saturday, a game that Paolo Banchero was playing alongside Chet Holmgren on the same team. It came out, I believe it was Wednesday, that the Thunder feared ligament damage to Chet Holmgren's foot, and it did come out on Thursday that Chet Holmgren will miss the entire 2022-23 season with a Lisfranc fracture. Now, those are really, really delicate fractures. They're really, really serious. And obviously, a long career ahead of Chet Holmgren. It is the right thing to be patient, especially considering, some of the. It's the right thing to do for any young player. And Lisfranc injuries do take a little bit of time. I don't want to, first off, let's just say it this way before we accidentally tread into waters that we don't want to tread into. I feel really bad for Chet Holmgren. This is a guy that I was really excited to see in the NBA. I know we did a lot of draft prep on him. I am very convinced that he will be much more effective and much better in the NBA than he was in college. The college game is not suited, and certainly that the team that he was on in Gonzaga, no offense to Gonzaga, was not suited for the exploration of the skill set that Holmgren had. And we only saw hints and pockets of what every scout believes Holmgren can be if you watch his high school tape. And again, some of the things that he was able to do in college. There is no discussion of, injuries suck. They're part of reality. They're part of life. Magic fans know that better than anything else. Injuries are largely random. I hated what I saw. I disliked, I wouldn't say hated, it wasn't that strong, but I disliked like some of the pockets of fandom, not just Magic fans, but fandom throughout the NBA that said, see, this is why you don't draft Chet Holmgren. He's injury prone. His body is just not meant for the NBA. And look, we all understood Holmgren was going to have to add some strength and have to develop and change his body. Every young player does. Like Paolo Banchero is built like a tank. He's going to have to develop his body. He's going to have to put on more kind of functional muscle. He's going to have to be smart about how he manages his body. It doesn't matter. Every rookie has to improve their body. Every rookie has to put that work in the weight room as well as on the court to make it through the grind of an 82-game season. It is a marathon. It is so tough. It is hard. There's a reason why we all marveled that Franz Wagner got to 80 games before he randomly rolled his ankle. And that's really how I view injuries. I know people hate me for saying this, but unless there is a recurring problem in the same spot, injuries are random. There is nothing you can do about them. You have to listen to your body. You sometimes push it. You sometimes push it too hard. But coming down on a random spot, look, it happened to me. Like I was playing basketball in college. I'm not the most athletic guy, as you can probably tell. But I went up for a rebound. I landed on someone's foot and broke my foot. And, my foot's been kind of messed up anyway because I had bad rehab advice. But stuff like that happens when you play basketball. I can't tell you the number of times I've rolled my ankle playing basketball. It just happens. It's a common, normal thing. And look, a Lisfranc injury is not common. It is a very serious injury, if not an unfortunately common one. Like torn ACLs, they happen. You have, and there's oftentimes not a lot you can do. Now, certainly, I think what's been called into question more than anything else is why Chet Holmgren was playing in this Pro-Am. The Pro-Am, as Bobby Marks described on ESPN on his Twitter page, the crossover is an approved Pro-Am by the NBA. I have to clear this up. Most NBA contracts do have a love of the game clause, something that kind of Michael Jordan started, allowing players to play in their offseason. They're playing pickup. No matter where they are, they're doing pickup runs. But the NBA does approve does approve players to play in certain Pro-Am leagues. Not all of them are approved. But the crossover is one that the NBA says, yeah, players can just show up and play in that. No big deal. You can't be fired. You can't have the contract voided for playing in this tournament. Certainly, the conditions inside the building in Seattle last weekend were not ideal. We went over this earlier in the week, but it wasn't good. They obviously called the game in the middle of the second quarter. Players were slipping around. We discussed how Paolo kind of looked like he was doing a light jog, and that's because he slipped one time on a drive and was like, I'm not doing this, and protected himself. Again, not to say that Chet did anything wrong. He was trying to play defense, chasing down a block on LeBron, and landed weird. And that's apparently how the injury happened. The conditions inside that building were not good, and I'm sure Jamal Crawford and his crew are going to learn from this mistake. And if LeBron or there's a big showcase type day like this, they're going to try and make sure that it isn't a better venue than this event was held in. It just was not ideal by any stretch of the imagination. But this stuff is random. And, I have no qualms about Paolo Banchero playing in this event. If he wants to go out there and play again next weekend, I don't think he is. But if he wants to go play out an event again next weekend, by all means, go for it. This shouldn't stop players from playing in these programs. They're playing pickup anyway, so the risk for injury is always there. But I think the important thing for today and for this moment is to feel for Chet and just hope for a speedy recovery, because we all want to see him play. Look, I know some people complain about how friendly and chummy the NBA is, but at the end of the day, I think we all want to see the best players play. As fans, we want to see the best players play. I don't want, necessarily to win a title because some guy, I'll win a title no matter who's out on the other team. But there is a competitive part of you that wants to play the best all the time. And as fans of the game, it sucks seeing a guy get hurt. Magic fans have, definitely been aware of the conversation. We have this recent history of injury that's been really frustrating to watch in a lot of ways. But at the end of the day, and so I think Magic fans are like breathing some sigh of relief. But, again, could have easily happened to Paolo, and I don't think anyone would have blamed anybody. if that was the case. It's an unfortunate injury. It's obviously something Magic fans are talking about, so I wanted to just chat about it real briefly. Probably went longer than I needed to. We're going to talk about Jalen Suggs' shooting and why there's obviously room for improvement, but why there are definitely hints that it could bounce back this season. We'll talk about him coming up here in just a moment. But first, BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information. From live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts, they have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening now. BetOnline, where the game starts. Any way you slice it, Jalen Suggs did not have the rookie season that we all certainly thought he would have. But Jalen Suggs did not have a great rookie season. Now, the Magic will sit here and tell you that Suggs was really good defensively, like elite defensively. Not just elite for a rookie, but very, very good by their metrics. And, I think there's certainly a little bit of them trying to justify themselves a little bit. There's definitely some PR spin in that, but by the same token, I think there is something to it. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's completely off base. Jalen Suggs' defensive numbers were very, very good, and certainly for a rookie, very, very good. Suggs is 21 years old. Do not give up on him. He's had 1 year in the league. It was an injury-filled season at that. Never really got into a rhythm. Probably had focus put on early defensively, often of a start, and was fighting uphill the rest of the way. Magic gave him freedom to make mistakes too. They put the ball in his hands and said, go. And honestly, probably told him to go with very little pointers. They wanted him to explore. They wanted him to make a few mistakes this year. And they just wanted to see what they had in him throughout the course of the season. So I don't, Jalen Suggs didn't have the greatest season, obviously, but we're good. And so it's important to kind of highlight that as we continue along. Undoubtedly, the reason why Suggs this season just kind of went so bad is his shooting was just abysmally bad. Overall, averaged 11.8 points per game, shot only 36.1% from floor and 21.4% from beyond. His shooting numbers from all areas of the floor just poor. 19% on pull-up three-pointers, 22.2% on catch-and-shoot three-pointers, 21.8% on above the three-pointers, 20% on threes, 35% on mid-range. Not terrible, not the shot. Really, only Suggs was according to ADOP's tracking stats. He was a pretty effective on the move to a basket. He was on the fit. Shot out 58% in the restricted area too. Was, I believe, or third team in field goal. He was second in free throw attempts per game. So again, you look at him, and the thing that stood out to the course of the season was Suggs can get to the basket whenever he wants. So as he learns how to create contact, as he learns how to take contact smartly, as he slows things down and finishes at the rim, there's a lot of points from there. There's a lot of points for him at the free throw line. He averaged almost 4 free throw attempts per game last year. If he could get that even one more to the line, that's 1.5 more points. You get from 58% percentage area to above 60, really, really good. That's another 4 points. Now we're talking about a 15, 16 point per game score. But what's really going to open all of this up is improving as a three-point shooter. Now, last year, Suggs had the ball in his hands a lot. And while most of his three-pointers, according to NBA.com, were considered open shots, almost 80% of his three-point attempts were with the closest defender 4 or more feet away. Attempts were open like that. He was still not taking great three-pointers. I mentioned a lot of the pull-up three-pointers. Not a lot of those. In fact, Basketball Index said Suggs was in the 80th percentile and the 80th percentile of three-point shot creation, which is really just a measure of the ability to create three-point shots for yourself. It's not about effectiveness in making them, but just an ability to create them. So we saw how Suggs does have this ability to create his own shot, to get to his spots, to kind of get shot off. It's not just about efficiency. I would say the big thing for Suggs this year is to put some guards up on him. Honestly, I think him to explore, and we kind of saw all aspects of his game back. By the end of the season, teams were happy to let Jalen Suggs threes. They were guarding against his drive because they know what a great driver he is. He can still get the basket, but at the end of the day, Suggs' effectiveness, his ability to make impact for this team, is going to depend on his ability to make shots. If he can get even into the low 30s in three-point field percentage, transform his game. Now, obviously, you're expecting, he'd make a huge switch. You're not expecting to turn into a 40% three-point shooter overnight. This is about taking baby steps and at least making the defense be honest with him when he doesn't have the ball in his hands. Keeping the defense honest that he will hit outside shots. And he's shown that he can do it. He had 3 games where he made 4 3-pointers. He had another 3 where he made 3. And all of his best games happened when he's making shots on the arc from perimeter. This is such a key aspect for Suggs and his development. He has to make shots if he's going to be a successful player. And again, I know I went on Locked On Fantasy Basketball last week, and I projected that Gary Harris probably be the starter. And the whole reason is Gary Harris is a reliable shooter. He's going to give that lineup better balance, and Suggs can maybe get some opportunity to work against bench players to kind of grow confidence in his skill set. Again, this is not anyone giving up on Suggs by any stretch of imagination, but it's just a reality. The Magic need him to shoot more effectively. So it's not about him becoming an ace three-point shooter. I've often said that if Suggs could be the Magic's Marcus Smart, that's really good. Now, he doesn't have the temperament quite of Marcus Smart, and Marcus Smart's great for that. But if he's an ace defender who is an improving, but an honest three-point shooter, that changes everything for this team. And really, it's just about space. That's really what we're talking about. If Suggs' most effective offensive tool is ability to get to the basket whenever he wants, then it should be on the arc. He'll keep defenses honest with his three-point shot. It's essential for him to do well. I think what you with the whole analyst world of the NBA is sometimes do things to unrealistic skill. You're a three-point shooter. Your rim, your ass. All these things are interconnected. A team's defense may not necessarily be bad because they don't say they're bad. A team's defense may be bad because their offense is bad, and so they're defending in transition a lot more. And I think Glass do a much better job kind of parsing out transition defense by team, half-court defense by team. I don't have a Cleaning Glass subscription, but I always imagined the Magic were more middle of the pack defensively in half-court, while their defensive numbers were in the 20s overall because transition defense last year was just abysmal. It wasn't good. But a lot of that is they're missing a lot of shots. They're kind of out of position because of wild shots. A lot of times I almost feel like it's better to take a 24-second shot clock violation than a voice shot that could lead to a long rebound, that could lead to a transition opportunity. That's sometimes my 2K strategy. If I can't get a good shot, I'd rather eat a 24-second shot clock violation, get my defense set. There is, I think, some real world soundness to that too. And it's very much the same with Suggs, I would argue, where because Suggs was such a poor shooter last year, teams were able to sit on and collapse the paint. Because the Magic don't have a lot of shooting on their team, teams were able to pack the paint, keep a foot in the paint on everybody, and limit drops, kind of making a cascading effect how bad the Knicks offense is. Shooting changes everything. There's a reason why this month on NBA.com we're focusing on the team, because it's such an important skill. And so for Jalen Suggs this season, for Jalen Suggs to kind of take his next step, it's not even taking next step for him to affect the Magic need. He needs to be a nominal again, super, earth-shattering or crazy, but it is a huge thing. And for Jalen Suggs, obviously he's kind of on his back foot. He had the injuries throughout the course of last season. He had ankle surgery at the beginning of this season. It does appear that he's back on the court now, just becoming a nominal three-point shooter. If he's hitting 33% of his threes, that changes everything for him, because now teams do have to worry a little bit about him from the outside. That pushes him up, enables him to blow by guys, uses speed to get to basket. Adams uses passing ability to kick back, shoot the high assist guy, enable him to finish more effective at the rim because he's going up against other defenders, or you're putting in another position. Basketball is forcing them to make decisions and exploit it when they're slow to make decisions or they make the wrong decision. When they decide to crash the paint leader, they decide to stick to a shooter and not crash the paint on a drive and run the big man for a drive, or leave a dump off option for that. It is a series of one-on-one matchups and a series of decisions that you're trying to break. And if Jalen Suggs, right, with TC Jalen Suggs, the ball, they're worried about him shooting. As long as I can get it, contest a little, rush him a little bit, we'll have him. If he has the ball, they're playing him for the drive completely, not worrying about him as a three-point shooter, or saying if stop pulls up and hits him, that's a shot we live with. That's a decision that we will make. And that's again, he's looking at a three-pointer. And that's up to 3. That changes the way that he ended. It makes. Well, so much Jalen Suggs that has proved as a three-point shooter again. I think that is the critical thing for Suggs this second season of his career. We're going to chat a little bit about Franz Wagner, game that he had as Germany defeats Sweden in the FIBA World Cup qualifying, coming up here in just a moment. Basketball in their sleeves. We're in the desert, feeling bad from heaven coming down. FIBA basketball is on the way. This is qualifying over the FIBA World Cup, which we believe it is. World Cup next year, qualification going out to the U.S. Defeat yesterday. I forget they beat bad. I think it was Uruguay. They crushed mostly with G players like Jeffrey Moore, U.S. qualification guy for the big tournament. In Europe, they're a little more seriously because Eurobasket's week's first game is his first game. They plan to open up their hosting the tournament. But this week is FIBA World Cup qualifying in Europe. Germany against Sweden will play Slovenia on Sunday. Yes, that is Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic is playing. If you watched FIBA World Cup qualifying box score yesterday, Serbia defeated Greece in overtime with both Nikola Jokic and Giannis Antetokounmpo having crazy games. Luka Doncic near a triple-double in Slovenia's win. Germany took care of the business against Sweden. Sweden is not considered a powerhouse team at all. Germany is. This was a game where Germany opened up a pretty lead around 15 at the rest of the Wagner. He scored 16 total, 12 in the first half. Shot ball pretty well in the first half. There was a little bit of circle let Sweden hang around a little bit. But ultimately, Germany was able to pull away 67-50. Franz Wagner finished with 16 points. We watched highlights. He looked really good. He looked really impressive. And the reason we want to highlight this game more the games that play this week in the Super Cup and Friends. This is a game that counts. This is an actual competition. World Cup spots are on the line. Germany is set to qualify first in their group. The moment they hope Slovenia in their group, but it would take a pretty big loss to miss out on the World Cup at this point. They've done their job, make sure they're qualified, and make sure that they're in the tournament next year. So Germany themselves gets on played really well. And I had a nice block, started fast break, ended up the 3-spot pointer. Had a when he got her on his back, boosted him up and backed him down. Eventually, fun pass for a leg. Had a really nice play where he drove into the lane. Had a nice wraparound pass to the big man underneath. Just made a lot of really good plays. He had a couple threes, he had a couple step shots. Franz, I would say this, without having watched the game, just watching the highlights, Franz looks really, really confident. And this is a point I made several times. We've looked at rookie players becoming sophomore players. Like you could tell when a sophomore player comes into camp, they feel a lot more comfortable. And I looked at Franz and watched Franz throughout most of these international games, and he just looks comfortable and confident. Now, is he taking over games? Is he dominating the ball? Is he thinking? No, he's still very much defying me. I'm going to make things happen for myself, my teammates, but I'm going to make the right play. That part of Franz has not changed at all. But I look at Franz and I look at the way that he's playing, and there's just assuredness. He knows what he's capable of doing, and he does really, really, really well. I think we'll have expectations for Franz, and we want to see Franz do more. And I think the manager should be spending the season pushing Franz to do more. But if Franz comes back as a more confident version of what he was last year, that's still a really, really good player. And obviously, Germany is putting him in kind of spots that the match would put in. I think the increased usage, increased play that from increased honest, his playmaking abilities, because I'm sure at the end of the day is mostly a scorer. And he's doing a little bit of injury, so I think follows in Franz's by design in this game. It's also Sweden, not that big a opponent. But Franz really played really, really well and continues to play really well. He still has some youthful moments where he makes some mistakes, but his mistakes, don't feel like rookie mistakes, if that makes sense. His mistakes feel like this was something I tried and it didn't work, so I'm going to learn from it. Those are the kind of mistakes that feel like Franz makes. He doesn't repeat mistakes. He learns from things and he gets better. And again, that's probably why I'm super excited about it. So Germany will play Slovenia Sunday Eastern time on day, and they're pretty much locked into the World Cup there. This win with some NBA players probably not be in the qualifying window, so they have games warm up for Eurobasket tips off on the German team on Friday. We'll talk more about that as we move on. Good for today. I want to thank you again for today's episode of Locked On Magic on Twitter at @PhilipRR_podcast, Apple Podcasts, Search Himalaya, Google Podcasts, all the fun boys podcast, your podcast, and on the Orlando. Check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can also Twitter at @OMagicDaily. Now that you're done listening to us, be sure to check out Locked On NBA for the latest around the NBA. Still going strong 5 days a week. Locked On NBA, all your national news. Check out today at Locked On NBA, wherever you download podcasts. I want to apologize for any video issues that I might be having for those watching on YouTube. I know my last episode of the video was awful. I traced this was on my Mac. It's that I was trying to I picked the wrong system. Trying to zoom parts and produce some video. So I paid everyone on YouTube. I am not a first in a video, so I apologize for a little slow video. Always listen to audio if the video is terrible to you. We are available on the podcasts as well. Just search for Locked Magic. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. For Orlando Magic Daily, Locked On Magic has been Phil Ross. Michael, so again, not for episode of Locked On Magic.